Prayers. I will invite the member for Georgetown West to grace us with prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Legislative Assembly now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the governor of our islands, the premier, the speaker of the Legislative Assembly, the leader of the opposition, ministers of the cabinet, ex officio members, members of the Legislative Assembly, the Chief Justice, and members of the judiciary, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for thy name's sake, great name's sake. Let us pray the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated. Proceedings are resumed.
Just to confirm that we have the members on Zoom. Honorable Moses Kekernel. Honorable Juliana O'Connor-Connolly. Honorable Roy McTaggart.
Present.
Mr. Austin Harris.
Present.
Thank you. Administration of oaths or affirmations.
None.
Reading by the Honorable Speaker of Messages and Announcements.
I have received apologies for the absence of the member from Northside, and also I have received apologies for the late arrival of the Honourable Minister of Health.
Presentation of petitions.
None.
Presentation of papers and of reports.
None.
Questions to Honourable Ministers and members of the Cabinet. Suspension of Standing Order 23-6. Suspension of Standing Order 23, 7, and 8.
Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move the suspension of Standing Order 23, 7, and 8 in order that questions may be asked of ministers after the hour of 11 o'clock.
The question it is that Standing Order 23, 7, and 8 be suspended to allow question time to continue beyond 11 a.m. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. Standing Order 23, 7, and 8 are accordingly suspended.
Suspension of Standing Order 23, 6.
Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move the suspension of Standing Order 23, 6 in order that the member from Bordentown West may ask more than 3 questions in one sitting.
The elected member for Bontown West to ask the Honourable Minister of Employment, Border Control, Community Affairs, International Trade, Investment, Aviation and Maritime Affairs. Question number 27. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
The question is that Standing Order 23-6 be suspended to allow the member for Bordentown West to ask more than 3 questions during this session. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Standing Order 23-6 is accordingly suspended.
The elected member for Bontown West to ask the Honourable Minister of Employment, Border Control, Community Affairs, International Trade, Investment, Aviation and Maritime Affairs. Question number 27.
Member for Bordentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask the Honourable Premier, can the Minister explain why the East End Sunrise Cottage has been permanently closed? Thank you.
Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, the answer. The East End Sunrise Cottage was closed on the 29th of May last year. The closure of this residential home for older persons was unavoidable based on the findings and recommendations of the Cayman Islands Fire Service during their inspection. The Fire Service found that the East End Sunrise Cottage was not in compliance with the fire code and therefore not fit for purpose. To protect the safety and well-being of the residents and staff, the Ministry of Community Affairs, in conjunction with the Department of Children and Family Services, closed the East End Sunrise Cottage and transitioned the residents to the Golden Age home in West Bay.
Member for Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wonder if the Premier can tell us what plans are in place for the building.
Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I'm afraid I don't know. I don't have any support personnel with me this morning, at least not yet. I don't know what plans there are for the use of the building going forward at this stage.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, can the Minister tell us what has been the progress on building a new retirement home for, well, I think we were considering for the Eastern Districts?
Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, from a long-term perspective, to address the needs of older persons in the Eastern Districts, not just East End, but the Eastern Districts, it is necessary for the government to consider a number of options. Those that are being looked at based on instructions from the Fire Service and Public Works, it is possible to repurpose the cottage despite no longer being appropriate to use as a residential facility. One of the things that is being proposed for that is that it be used as a center for day programs and community-based activities. The other option that is being considered is the purchase of another facility that is compliant with the relevant codes and better meets the needs of elderly residents. Or the third one is to build a purpose-built facility in East End. In regards to the latter, the ministry, along with Lands and Survey, have identified a number of parcels of Crown land to construct a purpose-built facility. The William Allen McLaughlin Civic Center, or the property that is on, which is 12 acres, has a significant amount of undeveloped land behind it, behind the sports field, and has been identified as the most suitable option should government decide to proceed with the construction of a purpose-built facility.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, the Premier would be aware that I visited East End last year, immediately following the closure, which I was not notified of, with the member from Prospect and the chief officer for that ministry. And we looked at a number of properties. Can the minister tell us what happened to that, to those properties, if they were rejected? And two, which building are they talking of that was looked at to possible a purchase?
Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I don't have that information. It is not in my packet, and as I said, I don't have anyone here from the ministry with me this morning. What I can say, because I am aware of this bit of it, is that when we were considering the preparation of the current budget that we have, and one of the decisions that had to be taken to get the budget to comply was what capital projects would or would not go forward during the currency of this budget cycle. And because they had successfully transitioned the persons, the elderly people who were resident at the Sunrise Cottage to West Bay, this was not deemed to be a priority at this time. What I can say is that in the current sort of crisis situation that we're in now, we are further reducing the number of capital projects that the government will attempt to proceed with for the balance of the term. And then, of course, there's the intervening elections in the middle of next year. And I guess at that point, whichever administration, including the current one, that assumes responsibility for the next 4-year term, will have to make some critical decisions. Given the world's, the state of the world economy, and given the challenges we are facing here, hopefully things will be clearer by the time we turn the corner on the new year. But the government does not really plan to engage in any new capital projects at this point, given the challenges that we are facing with respect to the budget going forward. So I say all of that to say to the member that it is, I think, unlikely in the extreme that any of this will be moved forward during the balance of this term.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank the Minister for those answers. Can the Minister say if there has been any reports or studies done of our population as to the need for retirement housing in the Cayman Islands that would give supporting evidence to, our golden age home, how much need is out there, residential?
Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I don't know if you could term it reports, but I know a lot of work has been done and is being done around planning for these things. I don't have those details with me. And as I say, unfortunately, I don't have any support personnel this morning. So I can't give any sort of definitive response, but I do know that those things are being considered and being planned for. The seniors facility that is contemplated for East End is one example of that, and also, significant work has gone on and is going on about a larger facility with respect to West Bay as well. So I do know that this work is going on. There's also consideration about a possible facility in the Georgetown district, perhaps somewhere in the area behind the Lighthouse School, where government owns some land as well. Because people don't like to be displaced from, where they're historically they've lived, and as the older they get, the more uncomfortable they become with that possibility. We have the Pines, of course, retirement home that is still doing incredible work, and we have a lot of gratitude to be given to those who had the foresight to do that. People like Mr. Richard Arch and Ms. Olive of blessed memory, recent blessed memory, and all those others who at a time when I think many people in this country didn't think that it was necessary, because Caymanians looked after their own and looked after the old people. That's the way it used to be. But I don't know where you'd be now if that foresight hadn't been around and the actions hadn't been taken.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I only have one more supplementary. Recognizing the Honourable Premier's concern about the state of the global economy and cost associated with these projects to build them, can the Honourable Minister say whether or not, what is the private sector options that are available to the government to allow companies who are interested in doing this as a business to offer up private retirement homes, and what options can we look into that direction? Because obviously we may not be able to build a lot of these facilities for now, but if somebody sees that there's a opening in the market and they can present it, is that an option that the government may consider or has considered, or how does that actually work here in the Cayman Islands?
Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, that is most definitely an option. Obviously, the facility would have to be, and the people who run it would have to meet with the whatever requirements they are in terms of care, and the facility would have to meet planning and other requirements. But there's absolutely nothing to prevent some private sector entity or individual from developing a privately owned and run seniors home or rest home, whatever you want to call them. And certainly from the government perspective, depending on what sort of arrangements could be made, particularly with respect to price, I would, whoever is in government, I would expect, if there was the need and the demand for the facility, that government would consider supporting in the sense of paying, as we do with the Pines, because that's what we do with the Pines. Government puts in a certain amount of money to support people who are government's responsibility, because they're indigent, to be able to live at the Pines. So that would not be a new concept.
Member for Boddentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Considering that this is the first time, I believe, for the Honourable Premier that the census will be conducted under his watch, would the Premier first be able to confirm if one, the census is still taking place this year, and then two, would he be open to the idea of putting together a public and private sector type committee to analyze the data of the census and see if we can look at some long-term planning for the country based on the census results. Thank you.
Honorable Premier.
Madam Speaker, that's a bit of a stretch as a supplementary for this question, but I know that the member means well, and yes, the government at the moment, anyhow, we've had no recommendations from the officials that we should defer or delay the carrying out of the census. So as far as I'm aware, everything is still on target for that, which I think is October, November this year. And it takes a long time actually to get the actual census report, close to a year before we actually get the report. You'll get sort of the headline results published in advance, but it usually takes close to a year to get the results. So following the general elections, yes, I'll certainly be open, if I'm around, to that sort of approach, because as the country continues to grow in a phenomenal way it has over the course of the last 40 years, we really do need to do more long-term planning. Because if we don't die young, we're all going to grow old.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, it slipped me to ask the Premier a question when he in one of his answers to a supplementary about the playfield being the most suitable place, the Civic Center, because, well, the Premier knows that place almost as well as I do, but there isn't a lot of land left there, and it would mean that this would be put in close proximity to the playfield. So whoever thought of that weren't there during the nights, because it's a sanctioned, what do you call it, FIFA field. And there has been plans in place for a very long time, or speculations or promises, whatever, of expanding that field. I do not believe that is a suitable place. However, I did say to the Premier at one time that Winter's Land, he wasn't overly excited about that because of it being so far away, but I can tell him that the people of East End are receptive to that. And but he knows where I'm talking about. I wonder if he would consider asking them to have a second look at it, because I showed it to those people that I went with, and reconsider that as opposed to by the playfield, because even if we purchase the property next door, the other 20 acres, it is still the noise factors going to affect a senior retirement home.
Honorable Premier.
Yes, Madam Speaker. If the people of East End and Eastern Districts are receptive to it, then so am I. My only concern was that I know where it is, that it's so far off the beaten path, you really got to make a point to get there to see them, and I don't know how many people would actually go by and interact with the elderly, which is very, very important for their mental health and stimulation, and their continuing to have a purpose to live. When they are, in my experience, when they're put away and don't get to interact with other people, they tend to decline very quickly. That was my concern. But if the people of East End and Eastern Districts are happy with it, then I'm happy to consider it.
The elected member for Bontown West to ask the Honourable Deputy Governor, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of the civil service, question number 28.
Member for Town West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honourable Deputy Governor state how many Caymanians and non-Caymanians are currently employed in central government that are past the normal retirement age, and with respect thereto, A, in which departments are they located, and B, what are their primary function? Thank you.
Honourable Deputy Governor.
Good morning. Madam Speaker, the answer. Madam Speaker, members will recall that just under 4 years ago, in September 2016, the normal retirement age within the civil service was increased from age 60 to 65. The change came about following the passage of amendments to the Public Service Management Law, the Public Service Pensions Law, and the underlying regulations. Madam Speaker, in response to the first part of the member's question, when the civil service adopted age 65 as the normal retirement age, there were 242 employees working within the civil service who were over the age of 60. As of 31st of May, almost 4 years on, that number has increased to 406, including 94 persons who have attained or are over the age of 65. Of those, 82 are Caymanian, representing 87% of those retained over the normal retirement age. As it relates to the second part of the member's question, there are 35 different departments that employ civil servants over the normal retirement age. The largest employer is the Department of Education Services, who employs 26 civil servants, or 28% of all civil servants above the normal retirement age. The next highest employer of civil servants over the normal retirement age is the Department of Environmental Health, with 5 individuals. The Department of Agriculture, Customs and Border Control, and Children and Family Services each have 4 employees in this category, and the remaining 30 departments have 3 employees or less. The primary functions that are undertaken by civil servants employed post-normal retirement age is diverse, with over 70 different roles being performed by this group of staff, many requiring very specialist skills. The largest function being delivered by this category of staff is teaching and teaching support. In support of the government's broad strategic outcome to deliver world-class education. And Madam Speaker, attached to this answer is a more detailed breakdown as requested.
The elected member for Bontown West asks the Honourable Attorney General, ex officio member responsible for legal affairs, question number 29.
Member for Town West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask question number 29, standing in my name. And can the Honourable Attorney General provide an update on the Consumer Protection and Guarantees Bill 2017? Thank you.
Honourable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning to honourable members. Madam Speaker, the answer. The Law Reform Commission, further to the findings emerging from its continued stakeholder consultation, is in the process of revising its initial draft Consumer Protection and Guarantees Bill, and will have a final draft available for another round of public consultation by August 2020.
The elected member for Bontown West to ask the Honorable Attorney General, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of legal affairs. Question number 30.
Member for Buddentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask question number 30. That is standing in my name. Can the Honorable Attorney General say what is the status of the discussion paper launched by the Law Reform Commission on the 23rd of November 2018 entitled "The Enforcement of Mortgage-Type Security Over Real Estate? Is Reform of the Law Necessary?" Thank you.
Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thanks to the Honorable Member for the question. Madam Speaker, the answer. The Commission in November 2018 published its discussion paper entitled "The Enforcement of Mortgage-Type Security Over Real Estate. Is Reform Law Necessary?" This discussion paper was prepared in response to a referral by the Honorable Attorney General dated 30th of January 2018, and I dare say, Madam Speaker, also at the request of the Honorable Minister for Financial Services, requesting that the Commission review and consider whether it is necessary to reform the law relating to the enforcement of mortgage-type security over land, and in particular over residential properties. Madam Speaker, the consultation period of the Commission expired in April 2019, but was subsequently extended on a number of occasions at the request of several stakeholders. Madam Speaker, since the publication of the discussion paper, the Commission noted that the responses mainly originated from financial institutions and their representative associations. And in addition, Madam Speaker, responses were received from as few as 5 individuals. Madam Speaker, following up on the 22nd November 2019 sitting of the Finance Committee of the Legislative Assembly, the Commission complied with a request to provide members of the Legislative Assembly with the various press releases concerning the Commission's work on the issue of foreclosures and the Commission's discussion paper. The Commission, Madam Speaker, was hoping to have had the benefit of the views of members of the Legislative Assembly on the questions presented in the discussion paper, so that the Commission, before formulating any legislative proposals, may feel satisfied that it had benefited from the responses of all stakeholders and those who represented a broad cross-section of society. Madam Speaker, the majority view of respondents from whom the Commission received comments was that whilst the forced sale of residential property is a matter which requires close scrutiny, such sales are an inevitable feature of a free and properly functioning property market. Responses suggest, Madam Speaker, that an inability on the part of lenders to effectively enforce within a reasonable time their security rights in the event of default would likely restrict the availability of financing to purchasers, which would in turn have an adverse effect on the real estate market. As such, Madam Speaker, most respondents do not view the law as being unfair or requiring any fundamental reform. At the same time, Madam Speaker, the minority respondent views of those from whom the Commission received responses suggest the opposite. Madam Speaker, the Commission, during its research and consultation, identified several proposals which could potentially have the effect of making the foreclosure procedure more efficient and transparent when seeking to balance the interests of all parties involved. These proposals, Madam Speaker, have been encapsulated in recommendations which will take the form of amendments to the registered land law. Madam Speaker, the Commission, at its meeting of 25th of June, reviewed and discussed the provisions of the proposed draft registered land amendment bill, and has scheduled a meeting for the 23rd of July, specifically to discuss further refinements to the draft bill. Shortly thereafter, Madam Speaker, the Commission will finalize and approve the draft bill for public consultation. Madam Speaker, for the benefit of the members of this Honorable House, I will identify some of the proposed provisions contained in the preliminary draft bill on which I have been briefed. These are as follows. 1, the bill provides for a comprehensive foreclosure pre-action protocol which sets out several mandatory steps to be expected between lender and borrower before a lender can exercise a power of sale against a borrower, including examine in detail all the circumstances of the borrower. 2, the bill permits the borrower to appeal a pre-action protocol decision through an appropriate independent alternative dispute resolution mechanism, and during that period, the power of sale proceedings shall stay. 3, the bill requires the lender to clearly advise the borrower with respect to the terms of the loan agreement, and the implications for non-compliance. The bill requires that the borrower obtain independent legal advice or other competent advice before committing to a loan. The bill, Madam Speaker, would require the lender to refrain from concluding any loan agreement unless the lender has reasonable grounds to believe that the borrower has been properly advised and understands the contractual obligations. The bill provides for the particulars to be included in notice of default and the form that the notice must take. The bill identifies what constitutes a public auction and the procedures to ensure fairness in the sale of foreclosed property at an auction. The bill sets out the factors to be considered when determining the market value of land during power of sale proceedings and the method to calculate the best value. The bill sets out the factors that would constitute acting in good faith in the disposal of land. And the bill also prohibits the application of a penalty for early redemption of a charge. Madam Speaker, the Commission is working to hopefully strike the right balance to an otherwise complex issue which, if not carefully considered, may have unintended consequences. This, Madam Speaker, has been the approach of the Commission to all the matters it has considered and is currently considering. Madam Speaker, I apologize for the length of the answer, but I was trying to be as comprehensive as possible.
Member for Bodentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And first, I want to thank the Attorney General for that response. Madam Speaker, what can the Attorney General tell us exactly, and maybe this is something that you can send back afterwards and I'll be fine with that, is considering players in the market such as Jamaica National and how unscrupulous they are, how would this bill prevent those kind of players from taking advantage of people? And the reason why I want to say what I said, Madam Speaker, is that some lenders, and I can tell from experience, have gone above and beyond in working with some of their clients, and I do recognize their efforts. And we have a tendency sometimes to speak general, and I think it's unfair to the lenders who are really trying to work with people. But then there are some of the other lenders that really, and that's why I specifically call Jamaica National by name, because I didn't want them to mix up or confuse them with the other players or the other lenders who are actually trying to do well. So what I'm looking for is pretty much the answer that deals with usury fees, where they charge these crazy interest rates the minute people start defaulting. They start put on a lot of fees and everything else. Like, how do customers or how do someone who has fallen into that situation get around those kind of unscrupulous lenders? Thank you.
Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I understand that we can only speak generally. But if the matters outlined here finally become law, then what it will do, Madam Speaker, among other things, is provide a very transparent sort of framework whereby lenders and borrowers would understand exactly from the very onset the terms and conditions of the contractual arrangement as it relates to mortgages. Madam Speaker, I am aware that some of these mortgage documents themselves can be very tedious, even for lawyers, for some lawyers, and sometimes for any number of reasons, borrowers do not take the time to properly acquaint themselves with the terms and conditions embedded into some of these agreements. What is contemplated here, Madam Speaker, for example, is that I'm sure it happens now, but it will mandate, for example, that there must be independent legal advice to the borrower, and that also the lending institution should be satisfied, before concluding the agreement, we should be satisfied that the borrower understands clearly what the implications are for non-compliance with their obligations under any loan agreement. And so in short, the hope is that if these conditions or provisions or suggestions, rather recommendations, find themselves in law, then it would provide a more sort of comprehensive, a more holistic and a transparent framework for chargee and charger. Thank you.
Member for Boddentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honorable Attorney General tell us, this Honorable House, if the bill deals with the situation where, and this is a real major issue now, where sometime when the bank forecloses on a property, the bank sells it way below market value, and then turn around and say to the person, oh, by the way, you now still owe me $200,000, because I do know of one case in such a situation. So we find some families now where they have lost the asset for sometimes for unforeseen circumstances, but then they could never ever get a mortgage again because this residual balance, this enormous residual balance. I mean, if I lend you money on something and you take it back based on that, as far as I'm concerned, you should eat whatever cost there should be. So can the Honorable Attorney General tell us at minimum if the bill actually deals with that kind of situation? Thank you.
Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, the bill or the recommendations here that would be set out in the bill is really understandably a work in progress. I am not, as I stand here, Madam Speaker, in a position to say that the bill will capture the scenario outlined by the Honourable Member. But the Director of the Law Reform Commission is here, and I will certainly impress upon him the importance of taking back those concerns to the Commission and see how they can best be reflected in any proposed amending bill. Thank you.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honorable Attorney General say or give a time frame for when he's expecting the final draft of the bill to be brought to the Legislative Assembly?
Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Sorry. Madam Speaker, I've been advised that the Commission will meet again on the 23rd of July. At that stage, they will make a determination as to whether they will have another round of public consultation, and if so, for how long, or whether to basically just submit a report to myself or to the Ministry of Financial Services to be taken to Cabinet And thereafter, of course, a determination will be made as to when the amending bill would get to the Legislative Assembly. But, Madam Speaker, at best, we're looking at sometime closer to the end of 2020.
Member for Boddentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honorable Attorney General tell us exactly how the Law Reform Commission is staffed, how it is made up? Thank you.
Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I laid a report 2 days ago setting out the structure. There are 6 commissioners. Yeah, there are a number of part-time commissioners. The chair is Mr. Hector Robinson, QC, and the Justice Alexander Henderson, retired, QC, Mr. Vaughn Carter, Mr. Abraham Toppel, the DPP, and the Solicitor General. And those are commissioners who give up their time voluntarily. And then we have the permanent staff, the public servants, the director, Mr. Jose Griffith, and 3 other supporting staff members who are the full-time staff for the commission.
Member for Boddentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honorable Attorney General tell us if it's in his opinion, if we have reached the point where we need to have maybe a full-time Law Reform Commission where people are properly yeah, sorry. Can the Honorable Attorney General tell us? Sorry, at a moment of levity. Can the Honorable Attorney General tell us, Madam Speaker, if the Cayman Islands has reached a point right now where, considering the importance of the laws that we have dealing and the important role that the Law Reform Commission plays in our society, if we have reached a point now where we do need it to be staffed by full-time attorneys and everything else, so in order we can get some of these laws, and especially even consolidation of many of these laws at a much faster pace. Thank you.
Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, thank you. If by full-time, he is talking about the actual commissioners themselves. Madam Speaker, I'm not aware of any such arrangement anywhere, maybe for good reasons. The commission looks to have on persons from different cross-sections with different level of expertise. And these are not people who it would be easy to recruit and to pay, Madam Speaker. They are people of probably considerable worth. So, as far as I know, the only model that has been used for a Law Reform Commission is persons who are part-time commissioners and who do give up their time. The commission, Madam Speaker, in my view, moves at quite a reasonable pace. The truth is that a number of initiatives that have been dealt with by the commission, they seem to have taken a long time, but it's this usually because what has been happening is the commission has been extremely accommodating in allowing requests for extended consultation. So, Madam Speaker, you will find that a particular consultation paper is sent out to the public for months. And at the end of that exercise period, at the end of that consultation period, the Commission again received several requests for an extension, and they would understandably wish to allow members of the public as much time to, a reasonable amount of time to comment on these issues. So they extend the period. And even thereafter, Madam Speaker, there are still requests for further extension. And so that is what sometimes leads to the delay, or what seem to be the members' concern about some of the delay or delays in dealing with some of these issues. But the truth is, and I don't want to frighten him, sometimes in other jurisdictions, some of these law reform initiatives takes 6, 7, 8 years. And yes, that's the truth. It takes 6, 7 years to come to fruition. And so we're moving quite swiftly here. And I think he mentioned something about consolidation in passing. Did you say that, Chris? Yeah. So Madam Speaker, we don't have any problem with consolidation of the laws. Thanks. So, Madam Speaker, we don't have any problem with consolidations of the laws. That has been done. We do that quite consistently every year. And as soon as the laws are enacted here, amending laws are enacted here, we have a full-time law revision commissioner who does the consolidation. The matter goes to cabinet and is gazetted, and so we are, Madam Speaker, way ahead of the pack, if I might put it that way, when it comes on to law revision and law reform. So I'm very happy with the work of both the commission, both commissions, the Law Revision Commission and the Law Reform Commission.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have 2 supplementaries, and I thank you for allowing me to ask this question. Is the Attorney General suggesting that we won't get a law reform change until 6 or 7 years? Is that what I understand him saying? That we won't be able to fix this mortgage problem or get a proper report that we have for another 6 or 7 years? Make him say that.
Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, no, that's not quite what I said. I'm sorry if the honourable member misunderstood me. I'm saying in other places, other jurisdictions, sometimes these initiatives can take, projects can take up to 10 years, 7 to 10 years.
Can the Honourable...
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honourable AG give direction, because I also heard him earlier say that there is a potential chance of another round of public consultation. This is 2 rounds now. How many more rounds before we actually get a bill to come to this House to take some of these suggestions? Because I must say, I think your answer was very comprehensive and balanced. To be honest, I'm looking forward to some of these suggested changes. But it's no longer about, I think they recognize what some of the problems are, and yes, it's fair from the bank side to the borrower and the lender side, and we have to create that balance. I think you may actually have it so far based on those recommendations. But I don't think the people of this country should wait another year, 2 years, 3 years for the bill to come. Caymanians are losing their homes and losing all the equity day by day by day by day. The question is, when is this bill coming? If you can give direction on that, that would be great.
Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I think I was quite clear in saying at best we're looking at closer to the end of 2020.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is my last supplementary question. Can the Honourable AG say if this paragraph is not an oxymoron or concerning? And I want to read, I don't know if when he was reading it, he was digesting what was being said, or at least what I interpreted to say. But let me read it again. Responses suggest, Madam Speaker, that that the inability on the part of lenders to effectively enforce within a reasonable time their security rights in the event of a default would likely restrict the availability of financing to purchasers, which would in turn have an adverse effect on the real estate market. As such, Madam Speaker, most respondents do not view the law to be unfair or requiring any fundamental reform. Madam Speaker, what I took from that, and want the AG to tell me if I'm misunderstanding this, they're saying because the lenders believe that they won't be able to get back their money quick enough, it would adverse the market for lending mortgages, therefore they say it's not unfair. Not because it's not unfair, but because the potential chance of reduction of mortgages to be available. The law cannot be deemed to be unfair or fair on the basis that if you make any changes, the mortgages amounts won't be available. That makes no sense. So it's almost as a scare tactic to say the law not unfair because we're afraid the bank's not going to lend us no money. That can't be the principal reason as to why the respondents came to the view that the law is not unfair. Did I interpret that wrong?
So, member, what is your question?
Did I get that interpretation right or not?
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Attorney General.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, the honourable member is not far off from what was said there, but he needs to understand those are not the words of the Law Reform Commission or the words of the Attorney General. That's a response that came in when the document was sent out for public consultation. That's their view of it. I'm sure at some stage honourable members of this chamber will have their take on the issue.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, let me see if I can bring some focus back on this. I know. Let me see if I can bring some focus back. First, I was a little taken aback by noting the Law Reform Commission makeup and the volunteers, and we didn't see any calling them out. I didn't see any generational Caymanian names called. It's only people who have come here to take up the profession that volunteer themselves to assist us with these things. Maybe it's time that we stop thinking those of us who are Caymanians and generational Caymanians who have become lawyers, stop thinking about our pockets only and volunteer a little time, okay? That's number one. Number two, I need to apologize to Mr. What's his name? The man there. Griffith? Yeah. Madam Speaker, just the other day I was looking at this and so I had to look at it. I know the Attorney General was going to chastise me. On the 26th of November, this gentleman wrote this legislature with response to Mr. Miller on the 22nd of November in Finance Committee, asking for the same thing. On January the 3rd, it still hadn't been sent out. It was subsequently sent out. On the March 31st, this Mr. Griffiths wrote myself and other members of the opposition, but I was so busy, I didn't get to read his stuff. So those are some of the things that hold these things up. So when the Speaker the Attorney General said that was hoping to have had the benefit of the views of the members of the Legislative Assembly. Let me apologize personally and as leader of the opposition that I didn't get to it, but you can't expect me to get anything in COVID. So the Attorney General knows I will read it and I will get back pronto. But my question, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, is I noticed that the Attorney General is saying the bill will include things like mediation, dispute resolution, whatever, and other aspects to protect both sides. One of the problems you have in this country is we tend to put these things to grand court, which is beyond the reach of many people who have mortgages. So I wonder if the Attorney General, the Honorable Attorney General, can tell us if we are going to try to, or if we can, keep these things to summary court, or choice between summary court and the grand courts because of the cost, if that's a possibility.
Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the point is taken, and certainly we will factor that into our consideration going forward. And also, where possible, have a word with the Learned Chief Justice as to how best some of these matters can be accommodated. But, Madam Speaker, suffice it to say that the court has played its part in issuing practice directions. Chief Justice has issued at least 2 sets of practice directions in 2012 and 2014 to help to streamline the whole issue of redemption of mortgages and how persons' property are foreclosed, setting out what needs to be done in instances where you have sale by public auction and sale by private treaty, and ensuring that you have fairness and transparency in the procedure. So, you know, if there's going to be sale well, you can only get to a sale by private treaty in most instances only after the banks or the lending agencies have demonstrated that they have tried to sell it on the open market by auction using sometime a reserve price, and they have not been able to get sale for it. So they can go to the court and then apply to have it sold by private treaty, which is negotiation between the two parties as opposed to public auction. The Grand Court has issued practice directions to ensure that that procedure is as transparent and as fair as possible. And so, well, Madam Speaker, the bottom line is that this is usually a private contractual matter between 2 private parties, and the court and the state can only regulate it so far and no more. That needs to be understood. It is a private contractual arrangement between 2 parties, and so, and the court can regulate, the state can regulate it to ensure that there's fairness and transparency. But a borrower needs to understand exactly what the terms and conditions of the mortgage, what those terms and conditions are, and what are the implications of non-compliance with their side of the bargain.
Member for Boddentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the Attorney General for opening that door. Quick question. The 2012 ruling by the Grand Court, has there been any study done to see if that was in the spirit of the law? And the reason I'm asking that question is that the mortgage crisis in Cayman started, maybe just coincidental, post that ruling. And if you go back to times in Cayman, even the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, when people are having it difficult, people still were not losing their homes. And since that ruling came out, where it made it much easier for people to basically lose their homes, is when we started having the flood of foreclosure. So the question in all of that, Madam Speaker, is, was there any review done by the Attorney General or his team or anyone within government to look at that ruling and to see if that was the spirit of what the law intended to be? Because the law was never designed for people to lose their homes so quickly. And when considering that in a small community, when you do have a forced sale, the surrounding neighbors' value of their property also go down, and Caymanian wealth has always been tied up in the equity of their homes. And that one ruling by the Grand Court has basically resulted in the problem that we have right now, and that needs to be dealt with. Thank you.
Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, there are a number of cases by the Grand Court over the years, going back as far as 1984, I think it is. Yeah, 1984, 85. Paradise Manor Limited, Bank of Nova Scotia, Cayman Limited, Butterfield versus Jarvis, Scotiabank and Ebanks and Gordon, National Builders Society, and Cranston, Estate of Alan Ebanks and Rudolph Gordon, Administrator of Estate of Alan Ebanks. All of these rulings, Madam Speaker, the court will usually be guided by the facts of each particular case and the circumstances and the law as it applies to those facts. So, Madam Speaker, well, you see, I mentioned this is a private matter. This is not a matter involving the state. But these are matters between two private parties. That's what I'm trying to. Yeah, well, no, I mean, I'm not saying that. But to answer the honourable member's question, Madam Speaker, I did mention also that post that 2012 ruling, in 2014, the Grand Court of Chief Justice issued a very, in my view, comprehensive, detailed practice direction, again, clarifying for stakeholders exactly how the court will approach the issue of sale and redemption, if I might put it that way, of mortgages. So, Madam Speaker, I would not burden members with the actual language here, but I'm going to ask that both sets of practice directions be tabled so that members can have the benefit of these, and hopefully when they respond to the Law Reform Commission, they would be informed by some of what is contained herein. Thank you.
Member for Boddentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. No, just to clarify, what I'm trying to determine is, was there any study done by government, by the Attorney General Chambers, with regards to the practice direction that was being issued by the court, and if it was in the spirit of the what the law originally intended? And the reason why I'm asking that, Madam Speaker, is that we have entered into a time in our country where we have seen the legislation being done from the bench. And just this morning, again, we had proof of that, and that has been constantly now, at least since I've been elected, I've seen that kind of issue. And what I'm trying to find out, because the court's purpose there is just basically to interpret the law, but this body basically makes the law. And what I'm trying to understand is, in this situation here, recognizing that maybe the law would have been vague when it first came out in the 70s or whenever, but the reality of it is that we still need to make sure that within our system of government, within our system of democracy, that nobody goes unchecked. And I need to know or need to understand if when those practice directions are issued, if studies are done or analyses are done or reports are done within government to make sure that those rulings are actually legitimate. Because like I said, we have been through a period in our time where we had worse financial crisis, where people are struggling and people still were not losing their homes until the court made that ruling. Now, it could have just been mere coincidence, but that is unfortunate the time in which it happened. And what I want to know, and I would like for the Attorney General to do, is to look back at that law, because I can guarantee you, when that law was being written in the 70s, a lot of things that was available today to use to sell a house wasn't available back then. So the law was didn't even speak of those things. So we have not made any changes to accommodate that. So I'm trying to understand on what basis did the court decide, well, we're going to do this to streamline the process, when the spirit of the law was never there for the process to be streamlined. It made it difficult for people to lose their homes, not for the process to be streamlined. And that's what I'm trying to understand. Who did that study to sign off on it, or we just took what the court said and left it as gospel?
Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, certainly the Attorney General's chambers haven't done any study of any particular case as it relates to the ruling from the Grand Court on mortgages. What I can say, Madam Speaker, is that this issue is an ongoing one, and the Attorney General sits on the Grand Court Rules Committee, which is chaired by the Honorable Chief Justice and comprised myself and attorneys from private practice. And this matter was discussed in 2014, which, among other things, prompted again the practice direction that was issued by the court, by the Chief Justice. Now, the practice direction is not a ruling as such from the court. It is guidance being provided by the Honorable Chief Justice to practitioners and stakeholders as to how certain matters will be dealt with through the courts. And it is expected that these will be complied with, barring any sort of exceptional circumstances. So they are extremely helpful guidance, Madam Speaker. But the Honourable Member can take comfort from the fact that the Law Reform Commission is now looking at the issue. And the hope is that whatever inconsistencies or perceived unfairness there is in the process or in the system will be addressed as part of that exercise. So the hope is that by the end of this year, we will have a bill which hopefully will be robustly debated in this House, and we can bring our own judgment and the expertise of others to bear, and what should be reflected in an amending registered land law as it relates to mortgages.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd also like to apologize for not sending in my contribution to the Law Reform Commission's efforts. I'll make an undertaking to do that as soon as possible as well. But I did notice in the response from the Honorable Attorney General that the responses, I think the general feeling is that they were low. We didn't get such a reasonable volume of responses from the public. So my question is, and I'm not making excuses for anyone, but how are we going about advising the public that these things are out for consultation? I know that emails go out and notifications, but are we using things like social media and running campaigns to let the public know? Because especially this one is very important. And I'm a little bit hesitant to say that 5 responses from 5 individuals would be sufficient to get a good representation of how the public feels. So how are we getting the message out that these things need input?
Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks to the Honourable Member for the observation. Madam Speaker, to his direct response about, question about social media. The Law Reform Commission hasn't gotten that far yet, but certainly the consultation papers are widely publicized, Madam Speaker. On the government websites, there are ongoing ads on the electronic media and also in the print media about these matters, and constant reminders. I mean, I heard it daily driving in or driving that the final deadline for response to for comments rather. I'll state that again. Final deadline for comments on a particular initiative by the Law Reform Commission is such and such a date. And there's this constant reminder in the media about it. So the efforts have been made to reach a wider cross-section as possible, Madam Speaker. But 5 responses kind of sums up the sort of difficulty that the Law Reform Commission experiences when these things are sent out. Persons are not quite vigilant for whatever reason. People are distracted or preoccupied with other issues and so. But it's a constant problem. Sometimes people just need to make the effort to provide their input on some of these things so that members of this chambers, members of this august body, can have the benefit of their views in formulating policy and legislation. Madam Speaker, we had the same problem years ago when we did the Freedom of Information consultation to amend the FOI law. Madam Speaker, we had about 3 responses. We sent it out time and time again, asked for members of the public to comment. And we had, well, I think we had 5 responses. 3 of them were from media houses, and 2 from individuals, Mr. Jared Coe and one other person. That is the extent of it. So there's this general sort of can't be bothered approach to some of these things, unfortunately, and that doesn't bode well for us. So, Madam Speaker, I appeal to members, if they could assist in informing their constituents that these matters are out for consultation and you might wish to comment on them, send it to the government and let us have your views on it. Thank you.
I will allow one more supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to ask the question, but I want to make a recommendation as well. I don't know if there's possibility that the AG knows whether or not the banks can use their database to send out to people who have mortgages, because obviously this is not going to be of interest to a person who doesn't have a mortgage, and not everybody has a mortgage. Many people are renters. So if the database from the banks can be used as an indicator to say, can you instruct your clients that there is a mortgage reform going on and this may be of interest to you, here's the link, here's whatever option or avenue for you to be involved. But my question though, Madam Speaker, to the Attorney General is, has there been a request from the Commission to have us as members comment, and when was that sent for us to be involved, if it was sent to us? Because I would love to have an audience with the Law Reform Commission. If indication came to us and I missed it, then I would like to rectify that.
Honourable Attorney General.
Yeah, thank you. I think the Honourable Leader of the Opposition just mentioned about the email that was sent out to members with the consultation paper. Is that the case? Okay.
Madam Speaker,
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
to try and clarify this, elucidate on it, let me see if I can help. Just this week, last week sometime when I remembered, when I saw the question for the second time from the member from Bodden Town, I remembered I'd received some email some time ago from one Mr. Griffith, I think, Griffith. And it was a thread of emails. Let me read his first, which was on the 31st of March. Dear honorable members, and it was sent to myself, Mr. Shakur, Mr. Bryan, Mr. Eden, Mr. Sanders, and Mr. Miller, and copied to Karen Stevenson, Catherine Wilkes, Panchico, Lourdes Panchico. Dear honorable members, I hope this communication finds you and your family well during this challenging period. I refer to the attached and the below chain of communication and was wondering if you had any opportunity prior to the onset of current events to review the papers on foreclosure, bullying, consumer protection, and the decriminalization of suicide. For ease of reference, I attached the documentation on foreclosure in particular. Grateful for your feedback, any feedback you're able to provide. Kind regards, Jose Griffith. The attached was an email to Mr. Griffith as of January the 3rd from the clerk of this legislative assembly. But let me go to the bottom and start those. On 26th of November, Mr. Griffith sent to Ms. Zena and copied to Mr. Belgian, Franz Manderson, Sharon Romita, Davina, and Patricia Priestley. Dear Mrs. Marin Chen, grateful are you if you are able to facilitate the dissemination of the attached cover letter and supporting documentation to all honorable members of the Legislative Assembly. This request is made pursuant to a request of the Honorable Azad Miller during the 22nd of November 2019 sitting of the Finance Committee. On the 3rd of January, the same Mr. Griffith. Good morning, Zena. Happy New Year. I wish you and your team success in all that you set out to achieve in 2020. Further to my earlier request, grateful to know if the attached documents were forwarded to the MLAs. I wish to confirm this before responding to questions which have been submitted to the Commission. Kind regards, Jose. Mrs. Chen responded the same thing, saying, Jose, no, it doesn't appear that the information was sent to the members. This is the 3rd of January. I'll have it sent out today. Clerk of the Legislative Assembly. Then, on the 31st of March, Mr. Griffith contacted us directly. That is what I was apologizing for earlier. The people sent on the 31st of January, March. It was sent to me, myself, Alva Suku, Kenneth Bryan, Tony Eden, Chris Saunders, Ezra Miller. That's when the attachments were forwarded. That that was in the middle of the crisis, and that's what I apologize to whomever this gentleman is, Griffith. Madam Speaker, I'm always capable of reading, unlike others who don't understand what they read. But I do apologize because I had a brief look at it and I did not respond. I know I can't be wrong and strong, but it was right in the middle of everything else. And at least I was man enough to say I apologize. And I know the Attorney General was going to roll all over me, as usual, whether I read it or not, but more so if I don't. And don't respond. And I didn't respond. I do apologize.
Deputy Madam Clerk, can we continue? Question number 31.
I would,
Honorable Attorney
I will
General.
instruct the Law Reform Commission to resend the document just directly. Well, this was sent directly to members. And it, yeah, but so, Madam Speaker, just to make sure, I will ask the Law Reform Commission to forward the document directly to honorable members so that they can have access to it and hopefully get an opportunity to comment.
The elected member for Boddentown West to ask the Honourable Deputy Governor, ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of the Civil Service, question number 31.
Member for Boddentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask question number 31, standing in my name. Can the Honourable Deputy Governor say what was approved training and development budget for the financial years 2017, 2018, and 2019 by department, and how much was actually spent each year by department? Thank you very much.
Honourable Deputy Governor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm happy to report that the Civil Service takes seriously the need to invest in lifelong learning opportunities for our teams. In providing these learning and development opportunities, we strive to ensure that our teams have the requisite skills and knowledge to tackle the increasing complex problems confronting our beloved Cayman Islands. The priority on continuing education is enshrined in our guiding principles and our daily practices. In 2018, when we launched our 5-year strategic plan to build a world-class civil service, we adopted talent development as one of the priority goals. In this area, we agreed that a successful outcome meant having the right people with the right skills in the right jobs at the right time. We have seen strong results where we are increasingly able to fill top positions across the organization through internal promotions, and we aim to continue to improve in this area. In fact, Madam Speaker, the remaining four strategic goals, customer experience, leadership, communication, and governance, all have specific learning objectives which form part of the plan activities for that goal. To help instill this organizational commitment into everyday practice, our core competency framework also identifies building capability as a focal area of performance for civil servants at all levels, ranging from individual contributors who are responsible for leading self to superiors, to supervisors and managers who are responsible for leading teams and departments, to strategic directors who are responsible for leading government's key areas of business. The member has requested a breakdown on how this investment is manifested financially across the civil service. The answer to the question, Madam Speaker, involves a vast amount of budgetary figures. The request refers to 3 years of financial data covering almost 100 different entities and 6 data points for each, corresponding to the budget and actual expenditure for training for 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 financial years. Another difficulty, Madam Speaker, is the fact that training is delivered in so many diverse ways, and that the expenditures may be wrapped up in other frontline expenditures, not all of which are coded to training. It may not come as a surprise that the most effective form of training is on-the-job learning. In the civil service, there are numerous examples of applied learning. These include where civil servants have the opportunity to be cross-trained in relevant responsibilities, to be seconded into different departments, to work on stretch projects such as part of a multidisciplinary teams, or to act on behalf of another person by taking on that role while the incumbent is temporarily away or the role is vacant. These highly effective forms of training are not expensed as training cost, and as such will not be reflected in the budgetary figures I'm about to share. Another challenge, Madam Speaker, is that while agencies have central training and development budgets, the actual expenses associated with training may be wrapped up in other line item expenses. Within our civil service, I'm grateful for the diversity of learning and development that is offered centrally through the portfolio of the civil service for competencies that are required across the civil service. Example, leadership, public administration, governance, innovation, customer service, etc. And by individual departments, mostly for training that is required for specific employee groups, which are mostly centralized within a particular department or ministry. Training expenses may manifest as travel expenditures, where, for example, training occurs overseas at a conference or training program. Training expenditures may be attributed to licensing fees, while training occurs online through dedicated e-learning portals. Where training occurs centrally for a large number of persons at senior leadership events or locally hosted conferences, some costs may be reflected in professional fees, venue rentals, or catering. Similarly, where training leads to a degree or certification or certificate, it may be expensed to professional fees to the learning institution. To provide a fulsome answer to the thoughtful question, I implore the assistance of chief financial officers across the civil service to look beyond the headers and to drill down to all places that training-related expenses get booked. The result, Madam Speaker, is a testament to the civil service leaders in the way they invest in their teams and to the thousands of civil servants who commit to training each year, doing so after hours, on weekends, and even during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many men and women, including those in uniform, sat exams in person just prior to the shelter-at-home order taking effect, and even afterwards, they balanced home and work commitments while continuing with their education online. Madam Speaker, in the past 3 financial years, for 16-17, 2018, and 2019, the civil service spent a combined total of $8.3 million on training, set against a combined budget of $10.9 million. Over the 3-year period, no ministry spent less than $100,000 on training and development, and 3 ministries' portfolio spend was in excess of $1 million during this period, including the portfolio of the civil service. They spent $1.5 million against a budget of $1.5 million. The Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure spent $1.3 million against a budget of $1.5 million, and the Ministry of Employment and Border Control spent $1.1 million against a budget of $2.1 million. A total of 20 departments spent more than $100,000 on the 3-year period, including the anti-money laundering unit. They spent $147,000. Workforce and Residency Cayman spent $207,000. RCIPS spent $738,000. The Civil Service College spent $657,000. Management Support Unit spent $320,000. Portfolio of the Civil Service, including Strategic and Corporate HR, spent $287,000. Information Rights spent $148,000. Office of the Director of Public Prosecution spent $120,000. Judicial spent $298,000. Department of Tourism spent $289,000. The National Weather Service spent $198,000. The Fire Service $516,000. The Prison $144,000. Ministry of Community Affairs Core Ministry spent $121,000. Computer Services Department spent $379,000. The Ministry of Community Affairs spent $121,000. That was the entire ministry. The entire ministry. Public Works Department spent $362,000. Ministry of Education $586,000. Customs, including successors CBC, $233,000, and Treasury $170,000. Madam Speaker, it would be remiss of me not to give a few examples of some of the training courses that have been provided to civil servants during the past few years. Madam Speaker, training in the areas of business development up to the practitioner level, change management, project management, again up to the practitioner's level, time management, team building, customer service, including delivered by world-renowned trainers, essential of supervision, mediation training for our senior court legal staff, training in the introduction of paperless solutions in finance departments at the courts, ILM training in leadership and innovation, contract management training, human resource management training, including training on holding staff accountable and having difficult conversations, and technical training associated with specific job requirements. Madam Speaker, using our online portal, or online training portal, we have delivered anti-fraud training to approximately 2,600 employees in recent years, and been able to seamlessly extend it to a number of statutory authorities. Customs and Border Control has developed bespoke online training for their officers, which has been taken up by over 80% of their staff thus far. Cybersecurity courses were recently launched and we are also equipping civil servants on strategies for recognizing and mitigating new threats which confront us in this information age. Madam Speaker, as you know, leadership matters, and we have invested heavily in training over 200 of our top leaders and inspiring leaders in the principles of dynamic leadership. This included bringing in speakers from overseas to deliver training while also utilizing our talents within the civil service. We have also partnered with the Institute of Public Administration in Canada, who runs an annual leadership seminar each year, and which has been attended by approximately 200 civil servants thus far. IPAC has also partnered with the Portfolio of the Civil Service to deliver a 2-day leadership conference in Cayman. That happened a few years ago. Madam Speaker, I am especially proud to advise that not even a global pandemic could deter us from our commitment to providing training to civil servants. During the lockdown, we provided numerous training courses via Zoom on topics such as working remotely, leading during challenging times, profound importance of authentic leadership, and various wellness seminars. In response, the civil service has achieved employee engagement scores of 70% across the organization. We measure the progress annually because we know exceptional leadership contributes to engaged employees, and happy employees means happy customers, and I would dare say happy governments. To improve the civil service towards its goal of delivering an outstanding customer experience, we trained 716 customer service ambassadors and 117 customer service champions through a newly established Customer Service Academy. In response, our Happy and North terminals have captured over 347,000 responses from our customers, and we have an average customer satisfaction in excess of 90%. Madam Speaker, in 2019 alone, the Civil Service College facilitated the participation of over 800 employees in various workshops and seminars. Additionally, 290 employees completed or were undertaking formal leadership and management qualifications through ILM. 22 employees graduated with an associate's in arts and public administration. Another 20 employees earned certificates in public administration, and 3 civil servants on scholarship by the Civil Service College completed their Bachelor of Arts at UCCI. Partial financial support was provided by the college to 13 employees who undertook the Global Executive Leadership Certificate course, which was offered in partnership with UCCI and Florida International University. Additionally, partial funding was provided to 7 civil servants who participated in the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Cayman program. In partnership with the Caribbean Development Bank, 42 civil servants achieved certificates in a range of subjects from pay policy analysis to project cycle management training. In partnership with the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development, 10 civil servants were awarded professional development training in learning and development practices, allowing them to provide professional learning opportunities in their own departments and as trainers within the college. Also in 2019, the college was awarded approval to run ILM program at level 7. This approval signifies the caliber of the in-house training team who can now deliver learning and development equivalent to a university's master's degree. The development work was undertaken in 2019, and the first cohort will commence in 2020. POCS staff delivered training to 225 employees in human rights and governance, and to scores of recruits during the mandatory one-day civil service orientation program, which includes participation from His Excellency the Governor, the Deputy Governor, and key thought leaders across the civil service. The Cabinet Office delivers training to all ministries and portfolios in policy development. Madam Speaker, time does not permit me to give further examples of the heavy investment that we have made in training and developing our civil servants. Madam Speaker, finally, I have attached to this statement, to this answer, an appendix which provides the detailed breakdown by ministry, budget versus actual expenditures on training for 16, 17, 2018, and 2019. Madam Speaker, and we also have that by department as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Bodentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And first I want to thank the Deputy Governor for that comprehensive answer. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, when I filed this question, I was not concerned about the money that was actually spent. I was actually concerned about the money not spent. And what I've noticed for the 3 years I looked at, Madam Speaker, that roughly 24% or just under $2.7 million of the training budget wasn't spent. And my follow-up question to the Deputy Governor, and I know personally that he is very big on training and development. My question to him is then, the heads of department or the managers that don't use their training budget, what happens to them? How are they evaluated? Because, Madam Speaker, you will get no points from me for not spending this money. We approve this money to be invested in our civil service. We expect it to be spent. So the question is, what happened to the managers or the heads of the department or the chief officers that do not spend this money? That's what I'm interested in, the $2.7 million that was not spent over 3 years. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Governor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that's a good question. And I know I sort of suspected that was the member was looking at, which is, I think, is a very fair question to ask. Why haven't we spent our entire money that was allocated for the professional development of our teams? So if you look at the figures, Madam Speaker, I think the member will agree that, we have gotten much better at spending our budget over the last couple of years. Early in 16-17, things were not going as well as they should. And I think, Madam Speaker, that was centered around the fact that we did not have a coordinated plan across the service that focused on training. And Madam Speaker, our strategic plan, which we launched in 2018, has really highlighted the actual need for training. It requires, it mandates training, but what it does is that it puts a focus where the portfolio of the civil service has now the authority to make sure that these budgets are being spent and that training is a top priority. To go to exactly what the member said in terms of what happens to these HODs. So obviously, like I said, Madam Speaker, and I'm just being very open and honest here, if we look back at 16-17, the figures speak for themselves. We didn't do as well as we should. That has now changed. Leadership has now changed. Leadership in terms of understanding the need for leaders, for our heads of departments, for our deputies, to invest in their teams, to show them that we care. If we care about their professional development, then we will go out of their way to make sure that they get the training. So by us focusing on leadership development, that has really trickled down now to other leaders understanding the importance of investing in their teams and ensuring that there's a training plan for civil servants and plans for across the entire civil service. So it is getting much, much better. Are we to where we are, where I think we would all like us to be? No, we're not there yet, but Madam Speaker, we have made tremendous progress over the last few years.
Member for Bordentown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the Honorable Deputy Governor for at least being open and frank. And just to put things in context, this question came out as a result of Public Accounts Committee when we were looking at government use of consultants. And when we see the amount of knowledge that we are losing by hiring consultant versus the technical expertise or the technocrats that we should be developing within the civil service, because when they leave with that knowledge, they basically leave with it, and we want to retain as much of it as possible. So the question, in order that, Madam Speaker, is can the Deputy Governor give us pretty much an update in terms of the Civil Service College, and where does he see training going in the next, I would say, 3 years? I mean, because this year is a little bit, but in the next 3 years in terms of what is his vision for training overall within the civil service, and from his own personal take, what percentage reduction does he expect to see in the government use of external consultants? Granted, we'll always need some external expertise, but overall, we need to spend as much as we can in developing the civil service, because ultimately that's the group that actually supports the government in terms of what it is that they do. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Governor.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Again, I thank the member for the question. I think what I would say to that, Madam Speaker, is that in the answer that I gave, I talked a lot about some of the courses that we're doing around business case development, where we are now training our staff to practitioner level, and also for change management. So the member would be aware that we brought in a lot of our consultants to help us develop business cases and other types of work around using consultants. So where we want to get to is that we reduce the need for consultants around business cases. Business cases are absolutely essential. For the huge projects, the airport, the landfill, the port, we will definitely need consultants to come and help us with those huge, huge projects. But other smaller projects, we believe now that we are equipped already within the civil service to be able to develop those business cases. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, is that when we do go outside for help, our civil servants now are in a much better position to challenge the consultants on what they are giving us, because we are now trained to that high level. So now we can push back and say, listen, what you're giving us is not up to standard, it is not up to par, or we are challenging the assumptions that you're making. We don't believe that you have assessed risk properly. So, Madam Speaker, what I'm saying now is because I've been on some of this training, so I understand these things a lot better than I did a few years ago. It has benefited me as head of the civil service. And I have received similar comments across the service. Mr. Manderson, I have received more training in the last 2 years than I received in the last 10 years. That is a common comment that I get from civil servants. Now that makes me very proud. So to answer the member's question in terms of reducing consultants, I can assure him right now that we do everything possible to reduce the need to bring in consultants, but also to assure the member that when we do engage with consultants, we can be able to hold them to account to ensure that we get good value for money. One of the things the Auditor General said in her report, I remember it very well, in the use of consultants, is that we should be building in transfer skills, knowledge and transfer skills in the contracts that we are giving out, and that is something that we're working on as well. So we take that report very seriously. It's the people's money that we're spending, and we want to make sure that we're doing that as judicious as possible.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I don't know if I missed it, but I don't see anything in here that says any of this came as a result of during an appraisal periods that we identify required training for upward promotion, which is specific development. I didn't see it. Did I miss that? If I did, then please enlighten us. If I didn't, tell us what you're doing about that.
Honourable Deputy Governor.
Yeah. The member is correct, Madam Speaker. I didn't specifically mention that, but he has raised a very important issue. During performance appraisals, the employee can certainly put forward courses that he would like to attend, or the supervisor can say, I think you would benefit from a course in leadership, or if you're a police investigator, you may want to go on an investigator's course, or you're an immigration officer, you want to go on a fraud training course. So yes, training plans are developed, and that would have been captured in here in terms of some of the training that people pursued. For example, the ILM course, the Institute for Leadership and Management, that has been identified as a really great course for our up-and-coming leaders, but also some of our leaders who have been in post for quite some time. And we've had great take-up from that, and we have seen a number of persons go through the course. So to the member's question, yes, training development plans do come out of performance appraisals, and we are taking those plans seriously and ensuring that they are enforced.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I know that if that's the case, then there is a percentage that the government puts down on that appraisal, whether it's that development program, whether it's 70% of it and the employees do 30%, no, to reach that goal within that year, to get that training done. Are they then appraised at the next appraisal period on having completed that or not completed it?
Honourable Deputy Governor.
Yes, Madam Speaker, yes, they are appraised. So if I can speak about some of the appraisals that I do. So I would require chief officers to conduct or take part in, sometimes I do it in hours, to have 50 hours of professional development training for the year. or to act as deputy governor 4 or 5 times. We agree on what the chief officer should the training that they should undertake during the year. We normally would do a mid-year assessment. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but this year definitely it's not going to happen. And then we would, at the end of the year, be able to look to see, okay, how well did you do? How many courses did you attend? And basically have a score in that particular area. So to answer the member's question, that is correct, and that is exactly how we're carrying out the performance appraisal system. Yeah.
Next question, Deputy, Madam Clerk.
The elected member for Bontown West asks the Honourable Minister of Health, Environment, Culture and Housing. Question number 32.
Member for Bontown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask question number 32 that's standing in my name. Can the Honourable Minister outline a policy with regards to Caymanian employees being on fixed-term contracts at the HSA and provide a list broken down by department at the HSA of the number of employees that are Caymanian versus non-Caymanian and indicate whether they are on fixed-term contracts or open-ended contracts? Thank you.
Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank the member for Bordentown West for that question. Madam Speaker, as of 2008, all new employees, non-Caymanians and Caymanians, were given fixed-term contracts. In December 2017, the HSA board issued a policy directive that instructed that all full-time Caymanian employees should be offered open-ended contracts on the expiration of their current contracts. There are now 513 Caymanians employed by the HSA, and 391 have open-ended contracts. Of the 122 Caymanians with fixed-term contracts, 42 are post-retirement and are on a one-year fixed-term contract renewed annually with a satisfactory medical. Another 15 are on temporary contracts, and the remaining 65 will be transitioned over the next 1 to 3 years as their contracts expire.
Madam Speaker, if I may, I recognize that the minister's
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
answer, be it quite extensive and explanatory, I want to know how can an authority or government-owned agency can engage Caymanians in fixed-term contracts as ordinary employees. Now, if they're contractors, yes, or they're over retirement age, yes. But I wonder if the Attorney General or the Deputy Governor can say how many employees in government who are Caymanians. I don't care whether they're generational, they're new Caymanians, that doesn't bother me. Caymanians who are on fixed-term contracts?
Honourable Deputy Governor.
Okay. Madam Speaker, I can only speak on behalf of the civil service, but certainly under the public service management law, the law requires that Caymanians are employed on open-ended contracts unless there are exceptional circumstances. So there is, in terms of speaking for in the civil service, it is probably on my hand the number of Caymanians who are on a fixed-term contract, and sometimes that is because they're taken on for 3 months on a specific project or something along those lines. But I cannot speak for the wider public service, ma'am.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I am shocked, to say the least. And I know the Premier may say that it's not his responsibility, and that's probably true, as a political directorate. This needs to be corrected now. Now. In the absence of those who the Deputy Governor just spoke of, special contracts like part-time, a particular project, over the age of retirement, and you want to bring them back, no one. And I understand this answer saying 65, is it? The remaining 65 will be transitioned over the next 1 to 3 years as their contract expire. They need to be done now. Any contract can have, and the Attorney General is going to chastise me on this, but any contract can have an addendum thereto. We need an addendum to these contracts now, not when they expire. There must be open-ended contracts for Caymanians. And I would like the minister to give us a commitment that somehow the political directorate may or will take it to cabinet and instruct that all and sundry who are Caymanians, contracts be changed now to open-ended contracts. We cannot take advantage of Caymanians. You're telling me in your own country you have contractual agreements that means you can't have a job at the end of that contract? Absolutely not.
Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have the great pleasure of answering this. Our responsibilities as elected representatives of any of the 19 constituents is to we are there and hired to ensure that Caymanians are given the best opportunities and best outcomes possible. I hear the member, the opposition leader. I undertake to consult further with management and board, as was seen that the HSA board issued a policy directive in December 2017. So I undertake to discuss this further and bring it back to Cabinet for further consideration as to whether the 391 sorry, the 122 Kimanians. Sorry, yeah, 65. Yes.
At different terms of engagement.
Yeah. That we investigate why it had to be done in this manner. I'm not sure if this is an international concern. I don't know. But definitely this is not what we would want for any of our children, to have a 3-year uncertainty. But I dare not delve any further, because I'm sure there was a reason why this was done, and I need to find out what that reason is and bring this back to Cabinet so we can further discuss this and make right if needed.
No, hold on.
Madam Speaker, if I may. I'll give
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, if I may. The only reason you do a fixed contract is control.
Yep, that's it.
Control. And a Caymanian in their own country, the possibility, the probability is that the employer does not spend time to develop that person because they have the option to put them out of a job. That is what fixed contracts are made for. So if the minister is asking why it is, I am proffering that this is the reason why you do fixed contracts. And particularly in the government. So you have no intention of spending, Madam Speaker, what's his name? The deputy governor gave us 5, 6 pages, 10 pages about training. That is what citizens are entitled to. They do not get it on fixed contracts. It is too easy to get rid of a citizen, put them on the street, and then government has to take care of them through, in our case, NAU. Other countries have different things, social services or whatnot. No Caymanian in the government entities. This parliament pays for it with the people's money. And whoever did this and is responsible for this needs to know. You do not treat Caymanians, regardless of where they came from, like dirt. This is ridiculous. They're deliberately abusing Caymanians. And regardless of who it is, I make no excuse for it. You can't put Caymanians on fixed contracts who are ordinary employees. If you have them as contractors, put them on fixed contract for that project. I hope those 65, and I know I'm stepping out on the limb here, Madam Speaker. I know I'm skating on thin ice now, but I'm prepared to go through it and get the cold on me.
I hope those 65 and any others take up a class action suit against government.
Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the member for his concern. Obviously, as ministers, we're not involved in everyday activities, and we're advised to, and it's not our responsibility to get involved in matters of such. It's definitely piqued my interest, and something that I undertake to investigate further. This 65 persons at the HSA and the reasons why they were put onto these terms. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm going to throw a little gasoline on this for you. And I'm not blaming the minister, Madam Speaker. Let me start by saying that. But if in December 2017, the board issued a directive that instructed that all full-time Caymanian employees should be on open-ended contracts, and we are now in 2020, and it's going to take 1 to 3 years to get 65 Caymanians moved over to open-ended contracts. Unless we're issuing fixed-term contracts for 4, 5, 6 years, it means somebody ignored a directive from the board. So that needs to be looked into as well, and I would ask the minister if he could also add that to his queries, whether or not this directive has been ignored and any Caymanians contracts, fixed-term contracts, have been renewed in that period since 2017, because it appears to me that that would be the case, unless we have fixed-term contracts 3, 4, 5 years.
Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what I'm being reliably informed now is that this directive was a previous directive from the previous board, and the current board has now corrected this flaw, that all Caymanians should be on open-ended contracts. And the 65 that are on there, once they expire, they will be afforded open-ended contracts also.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I must say I can't say that I'm surprised, because we brought this up since a few times since I've been elected. But I want the minister to say whether or not if he's aware of any other authorities that is under his administration that has the same problem. Because we've talked about this already. And I don't know why there seems to be a big surprise, but if the minister can say if he's aware of any other authorities that he may have connections to that has the same issue of Caymanians being on fixed-term contracts.
Honorable Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, thank you. And I thank the member from Georgetown Central for that question. I am not aware, unless the member has something specific, then I will address his specific if he brings them forward.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'm not trying to trick the minister in any way. There's no other public authorities under him that I'm aware of. But there is a number of other authorities, and you heard the Honorable Deputy Governor talk about what the civil service policy is, and he's surprised that this same process is not adopted with the public authorities. I brought up 2 years ago about the Port Authority's contracts with their employees, and nobody said anything about it. And almost every single one of them there, I would say almost 90% of them, are on contracts. So I would plead with the minister while he's addressing the area of responsibility for him, that to also, on behalf of those good Caymanians who work at the Port Authority, and any other authority for that fact, that this should be looked at on all government companies and all public authorities, not only HSA, because we have this problem in other authorities as well. So I encourage him, when he brings that to the attention of his cabinet colleagues, to talk about all of them, so we can ensure that all Caymanians are protected in the rightful way. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, I thank the member from Georgetown Central for his concern. Obviously, the question of Port Authority wouldn't be directed to me, but definitely, you know, same concern here. If it's something like that going on in other authorities, needs to be brought forward and identified, and if needs to be fixing, then it has to be fixed.
Member for Bodden West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just want the minister to know that one of the reasons why that question was filed to ventilate these issues is that when we have young Caymanians going overseas, getting qualified to be nurses and everything else, and coming back and having a problem getting a mortgage or being held against them for a mortgage application because basically they're not guaranteed employment, this is part of the problem with it. So I'm looking forward to this issue being solved very quickly, because it is affecting a lot of our young people in that regard. One question, Madam Speaker. Can the minister tell us if the HSA is accepting Caymanians from American universities for apprenticeships or anything like that? Thank you.
Honourable Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, you'd be so kind to give me a few minutes, please. Madam Speaker, I'm reliably informed that currently doctors in training are not being accepted from American universities, only from the University UE. But apparently this is a problem to do with the council's construct. Something that I have to deal with, obviously the medical council. I did not know this, Madam Speaker, I must confess. And I thank the member from Bontown West for bringing this to the public's light. It's definitely something that I need to look into, as most of our students, I think, are in American universities, and it would be disheartening to know that they couldn't come home to do training at their local hospital. But I undertake to have a discussion with the medical council to find out why they have taken this view.
Member for West Bay North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you. Mr. Minister, there is your program for nurses where they train and then they do time in the hospital, then they graduate. That's when they're ready to become nurses. I think over the last 2 or 3 years, we've graduated quite a few of them, but there's still 7 or 8 that can't seem to work. There was one who graduated top, and it took her 6 months to get even an interview. Don't the hospital know when the contracts are up with nurses who are from overseas, that we can say to these young ladies, your time is coming in June. Someone's contract could be up and you'll have that spot because they've passed the hospital program. They've done their training there and stuff like that. So what, can you, if you don't want to answer, can you look into it to see that these 6 or 7 young command nurses that are all there qualified, they don't have any jobs?
Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank the member from West Bay for that question. Definitely a pet peeve of mine in terms of the nursing program. It's one of the programs that we actually started there at the UCCI. And we have to ensure that it works and that persons don't get frustrated with the end of this process in terms of being employed at the HSA or otherwise. I was told, I did not know about the 7, confessing that, and I've worked very closely with some of the nurses who had graduated, very, very closely, at least 4 or 5 of them who had contacted me personally to follow up on their process, and all of them, I had contacted the CEO, and all of them that I contacted her about, it was just a matter of a process that they were going through, and all of those had been employed. So I don't know about these 7 if this is something recently, but I would hope that we would have, now that the nursing program is up and going, I think we probably need to look at our at the system in terms of easing them in once contracts are expiring. What we don't want, I don't understand, I won't profess that I understand everything about what it takes to be a nurse and taking over a role of a veteran nurse, ending that contract and putting a new nurse in there. So I don't know, and that's the details that I need to find out of how can we as a country during the 4-year period of the course that is at UCCI to ensure that they get enough training that they're ready to go as they graduate. So I undertake to look into this program and to investigate if there's those 7 still there outstanding, and what is the status. It would be good if off the air, the member had names that he could provide me privately. I would take great pleasure in trying to ensure that they're placed.
Next question.
The elected member for Georgetown Central to ask the Honourable Deputy Governor, ex officio member, responsible for the portfolio of the Civil Service. Question number 33.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask the question number 33, standing in my name. Can the Honourable Deputy Governor provide an update on the status of the distribution of the 100,000 protective face masks purchased by Hazard Management, Cayman Islands?
Honourable Deputy Governor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the answer. As part of the Cayman Islands government response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the National Emergency Operations Center, NEOC, was activated in March 2020. Daily strategic and policy meetings were held to monitor global and local activities and developments to enable issues of concern to be identified and to provide an early, centralized, cohesive, and unified decision-making response capability across the full range of the Cayman Islands government services to meet the desperate needs of the communities of the Cayman Islands. In response to the mandatory requirement for all persons to wear protective face masks when entering public places such as banks and supermarkets, and in recognition of the difficulty members of the public were likely to have in obtaining masks individually, given the global market demands, in April 2020, the NEOC Support Services Cluster procured reusable protective masks for communities across the entire Cayman Islands. Sourcing and procurement of the masks were handled by the NEOC Support Services Cluster, and shipments of the masks were received in batches. The logistic issues around the controlled distribution of the reusable and protective masks was referred to the Commissioner of Police for consideration and approval to be carried out by community policing personnel.
Cayman Bragg, Minister of Education and Deputy Premier, can you all put your mic on mute, please?
Okay. Madam Speaker, apologies. Let me start over. In response to the mandatory requirement for all persons to wear protective face masks when entering public places such as banks and supermarkets, and in recognition of the difficulty members of the public were likely to have in obtaining masks individually, given the global market demands, in April 2020, the NEOC Support Services Cluster procured reusable protective face masks for communities across the entire Cayman Islands. Sourcing and procurement of the masks were handled by the NEOC Support Services Cluster, and shipments of the masks were received in batches. The logistics issues around the controlled distribution of the reusable protective masks were referred to the Commissioner of Police for consideration and approval to be carried out by community policing personnel, including community safety officers who were embedded in the communities across the islands and who were therefore ideally placed to assist in the distribution process. The RCIPS agreed to the distribution proposal using all community policing personnel and community support officers across the islands under the supervision of Inspector Courtney Miles, Head of Community Policing Department for the RCIPS. Under the supervision of Inspector Miles, masks were collected by his team as they became available, packed in protective seal bags for distribution. Distribution took place across the island, including the RCIPS using one of their helicopters to deliver 3,200 masks to Kimmenbrock for distribution by police officers and the community safety officers stationed there. The 2 officers on Little Cayman received and distributed 172 masks in Little Cayman, which covered all residents. Inspector Miles oversaw distribution across Grand Cayman and used his community police officers and community safety officers to distribute the masks by neighborhood, maintaining a record log of all masks distributed by street, road, house number, and number of occupants. To date, protective face masks have been distributed as follows: Grand Cayman, 47,584, Kimmenbrock, 3,200, Little Cayman, 176. In addition, the RCIPS Community Policing Department currently holds a further 18,500 masks for distribution. For homes that were vacant during the distribution processing, calls are received from residents by community policing officers, and community safety officers will follow up delivery to those homes. To achieve the widest possible distribution of the reusable protective face masks, the RCIPS Community Policing Department are now rotating around major supermarkets complexes on scheduled dates, announced in advance in the media across Grand Cayman using their command vehicle, and this will be ongoing for the next 2 weeks or so. In-person resident who has not received a reusable protective face mask is encouraged to make direct contact with their local community policing beat officer or community safety officer, and arrangement will be made for early delivery of masks. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Royal Cayman Police Service and its community officers under the instructions of Inspector Miles. His team has done an amazing job, particularly in the Georgetown area, and that I can stand firmly to say they did a great job. And a special thanks to Officer Peart and his team, to the constituents of Georgetown Central. I worked with them to deliver close to 5,000 masks in the constituency of Georgetown Central. So I appreciate the hard work that they have done, and the police commissioner should note some sort of vacation, extra day or something for them, because they worked really hard. That being said, Madam Speaker, can the Honorable Deputy Governor say whether there was any specific standard required when ordering these masks? Because not all masks are the same. I think we all probably know that by now. As specialists, we can all be specialists in some way, shape, or form by now. But how do we decide what masks to order or who to order them from?
Honorable Deputy Governor.
Madam Speaker, thank you. So we would have received guidance from Public Health around what type of masks to use, but this was done very early in the pandemic, and I think we were told at the time, basically any type of covering over your nose and mouth was going to be at least partially effective. But as we got to learn more, then I think we were able to build that into our supplies. So a vendor in Jamaica was producing 2-ply washable, reusable masks, which we were told would be effective. I want to thank the member from Leader Opposition for giving us. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Who put us in touch with the vendor, Madam Speaker, and that was really very helpful to us, because we weren't sure where we're going to get it from. And I thank the Leader of the Opposition sincerely, sir. Thank you very much for putting us in touch with the vendor, who was also supplying masks to the Jamaica Police and the Defense Force. It's called Hefes Sales Company Limited, and they were able to bring masks or produce masks within 1 month. So 50,150 masks in total were ordered at a cost of US dollars $101,340,000 or Cayman dollars 185,000. There was some additional cost. These orders were shipped via FedEx in 10 lots using the HSA's corporate account to take advantage of better rates. The first mask containing 6,250 masks. The first shipment containing 6,250 masks was shipped in April, and the remaining 1,350 was shipped on the 29th of May 2020. We also, with the assistance of DART Corporation, was put in touch with Haynes, company out of the United States, and we were able to purchase masks from that company as well. And we got them as a cost of $1 US dollars per mask, or 84 cents Cayman dollars. And we received the rest of the masks from that company. So my sincere thanks to the Leader of the Opposition and DART and everyone who was involved in the procurement of the masks and to the distribution. I think they did a fantastic job.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to echo the sentiments of the Deputy Governor in respect to great thanks to the Leader of Opposition as well as the DART organization. Can the Honorable DG say why there was a difference in handing out of masks from the Minister of Health as opposed to under these circumstances? Because I did appreciate what the Minister did by allowing me to have masks that was selected for each member, and we got to get them out. But that same approach wasn't taken with this respect. I actually had to reach out myself, I think most people would know that by now, to the police department and say, listen, I need to know that every single soul has one in my constituency. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been involved. Can you tell why there's two different approaches in respect to the mask distributions?
Honorable Deputy Governor.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we were well aware of the Minister of Health program, and where he'd send them directly to MLAs and for distribution. But we thought that it was also necessary to have a sort of more encompassing program as well, and to provide masks that were reusable. But also, Madam Speaker, one of the great advantages of using the RCIP, especially the community safety officers and the community policing officers, is that these officers got to go into almost every home within their beat and make contact. So it really provided a dual purpose. As you know, Madam Speaker, when the whole purpose of community policing is to develop good relationships within your beat, so that you are there for those persons when you need them. You are readily known to them, and that relationship is built. When we have that trusted relationship, then they will report crimes to you. They will tell you things that they might not tell someone else. So we saw it as a great opportunity to enhance our policing strategy in this area, while also complementing the work that the Minister of Health was doing and the MLAs were doing to make sure that their constituents had a mask.
Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is my last supplementary, but also to highlight that it's important that we all recognize that these masks were not only for Caymanians, they were for everybody. And the constables involved in this did an amazing job to get into even a lot of what you would probably consider the tenement yards, giving it out to every single soul. That's why even though I only have 1,250 registered voters, 5,000 masks were delivered in my constituency, because this effort wasn't only about Caymanians, but every resident that was anybody who was living in this country. So again, just in closing, not a question, but thank you very much, and I want to thank the government for finding the funding, thank the Honourable Opposition Leader and the DART Group for making this a success. I genuinely believe that effort is probably one of the key factors why we have such low numbers and why we're doing so well. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Franz.
Thank you, sir.
You're the first person that said anything.
You can answer.
Sorry,
Honourable Minister of Health.
I wasn't going to get up, but the opposition leader reminded me that I needed to thank him. And I definitely, my office distributed the masks that he provided for us, and it was one of the first efforts to actually provide reusable masks in Cayman, and I appreciate the efforts that the Deputy Governor and his team did. Obviously, we needed efforts in every angle. We needed, initially, the intent was that if we had 19 members, that this was a country's effort, and that each person representing their constituency would be able to delve in and to reach at least those persons that were needy, elderly, etc., to ensure that they had access to masks. We wasn't able to reach everyone. Obviously, they were reusable, so after 5 hours, they had to discard them. And we were definitely most thankful to the Leader of Opposition bringing in that those reusable masks and for the work that the Deputy Governor did. And I want to thank my Acting Chief Officer, Ms. Nelly Pucci, and my PA, Ms. Sharon Roberts, for being there with me all the way and sorting these masks and ensuring that they contacted every elected person to ensure that they came and picked up their allotments and so forth. So it was a beauty, Madam Speaker, to see the whole country working together, the same effort in trying to ensure, and probably one of the many reasons why we had such great success in terms of the virus itself not infecting a lot of people here in the Cayman Islands because of all the efforts by the opposition leader, Dart, and some others, and Deputy Governor's efforts, and some of the ministers' efforts, and other persons. So I thank you, Mr. Opposition Leader, for that, and of course the great contacts that you have overseas help with that. But thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, just to say
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, despite what my good friend that sits across from me said, that he heard the petition that I made to be thanked. That was not the case, Madam Speaker. I was merely thanking the Deputy Governor for recognizing me, albeit I didn't do it on the mic, because I don't need to be thanked when it comes to my country. This happened since March. I didn't need that. I also brought in 2,000 masks and distributed in East End long before anybody else did. They were the first ones off the production line that the government that I arranged, I connected the government with. So I don't need that. I did many other things during this thing too, but I don't need that. But I thank the minister, albeit late, for thanking me. And I even thank my good friend for encouraging the minister in accordance, according to him, with the petition, the crying petition that I made, for instructing his minister to thank me. But be that as it may, Madam Speaker, I really don't need that, but I am just grateful that I could help. That is it.
Okay, the House will now suspend its proceedings for lunch. I ask all members to return to the chamber at 3:15.